Well, I'll make a few observations of my own from this weekend. And first, I'm an NC State grad. We actually both are. And so I watched NC State versus Notre Dame, and Notre Dame kicked our butts, which was unfortunate. But one observation I made from that game is Audric Estime looked really good. Now, he's the running back for Notre Dame. He is listed at 5'11" and 227 pounds. So he's a big boy. A lot of, prototypical NFL size. And he wasn't really on my radar coming into this year, but this is his third big game in a row. They played week 0. So third big game in a row. And NC State has a pretty respectable defense. I'm biased, but I think NC State has a pretty respectable defense. And he torched us. He broke off an 80-yard touchdown run, which shows that he's got the jets for a guy that size, showed good movement skills. And his contact balance is incredible. He's hard to bring down. So he's a riser for me and somebody that I'm going to be keeping my eye on moving forward as a Devy dark horse. The other game that I watched was Texas versus Alabama. This was kind of the big Devy game on the slate. You had tons of future NFL potential players on both sides of the ball. And some of my main takeaways from that game, CJ Baxter played. So I mentioned last week, we thought he broke his collarbone. I guess he didn't because he was out there. I thought he looked pretty good. Again, he got the start as a true freshman. And the box score is not going to jump out at you or as anything special that he did. But he didn't look like a true freshman to me. He's a big-bodied dude, looked like just an athletic, just built like a brick house, and he moved well, and he had good patience and vision for a freshman. So this is a guy who I'm still buying into, even though 2 weeks, not much in the box score. If there's a buying window, buy him because I think his, as he gets closer and closer to the NFL, his price is only going to go up. And the other big observation that I made from that game is that Jalen Milroe is not a Devy asset. Now, some of you might be like, duh, Captain Obvious. I never thought he was to begin with. But some people, I saw him drafted in almost every Devy draft that I did this year. A lot of it is just I'm going to take a flyer on potentially getting the Alabama starting quarterback. So I totally get that. And some people might buy based off of he's the Alabama starting quarterback. Maybe they didn't watch the game. Maybe they're just looking at the box score. They say he's a dual threat. He's got great mobility. And, of course, the dual threat can be really good for fantasy. And so if you can catch your league mates sleeping and they're like, hey, we got an Alabama quarterback. He's a dual threat. Maybe he's the next Jalen Hurts. He's not. He was terrible passing the ball. Major issues mentally, processing the field, making his reads, making his decisions. His accuracy was all over the place. He had a nice deep ball, but he really held that offense back. And so not only him, but guys like Isaiah Bond, who I think is a wide receiver with some real NFL potential, he's going to be held back for as long as Jalen Milroe is the quarterback. He's really, the cliche is that he's just a running back playing quarterback. And in this case, that might actually be pretty close to true. So it's going to hold back all of the weapons in that offense as long as he's the starter. And then the last game that I watched, I fell asleep in the middle because I can't hang with these Pac-12 games. But USC, Caleb Williams, you don't need me to tell you that Caleb Williams is a stud. He's worth tanking for. But just watching that game, he was 19 for 21, I think. So he only threw 2 incompletions, threw for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was a blowout quick against Stanford. But the things he does with the ball in his hands are just magical. He's got that it factor. And so if you don't play Devy and you're just a dynasty player watching this, trust me, you want to make the decision early this year if you can contend or if you can't. And if you can't, sell it all, burn it down. You need to go get Caleb Williams on your roster. He is absolutely, look, Marvin Harrison Jr. or Drake May would be an okay consolation prize, but I think he's going to end up being more than twice as valuable as either one of those guys. So if you can get a jump start early in your league mates, it takes them 4 or 5 weeks to figure out that they want to tank, and you can start tanking right now, sell away the assets, get yourself the number 1 pick. You're not going to regret that. So those are some of my observations from the games that I watched. As far as a stock up, stock down, I'm going to say Devin Neal is stock up. He's the Kansas running back. He's somebody that I have not paid enough attention to over the last few years because he's at Kansas. But when I watch him, he just looks electric with the ball in his hand. Great cutting ability, lateral agility. He's put up a couple good games here to start the year, including in the receiving department. I love a running back that can catch passes, and he's been showing me that the last couple of weeks. So Devin Neal, he had a Friday game, so I watched him on Friday night. He looked really good. He's a stock up for me. And then stock down, I'm going to say Donovan Edwards, just because he has been getting the same amount of touches as Blake Corum. So they're kind of the duo in the Michigan backfield. Corum, 2 weeks in a row now, has had like huge yardage outputs, multiple touchdowns, and 2 weeks in a row now, Donovan Edwards has done nothing with the same amount of touches. I think that's not a good sign for him. And most people have actually considered Edwards to be the better Devy asset, that maybe Blake Corum's the better college back, but Donovan Edwards has higher NFL upside. But right now, Blake Corum looks really good, and Donovan Edwards running behind the same offensive line against the same defense is just not doing it. So he's a stock down for me. And you could say similar things about Braylon Allen, who looked bad this week too. But definitely got my eye on the 2024 running back class. It's been a rough start. Raheem Sanders is hurt. Travion Henderson is in a major timeshare and not looking as good as we hoped. Edwards and Braylon Allen, question marks there this week. So 2024 running back class needs some people to step up. So those are some of my college slate takeaways.